Well, good afternoon to you. It is 5:06 here at News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. By now, you probably know her as the woman who helped destroy the lives of your children. Randi Weingarten is the head of the American Federation for Teachers, and a massive, I'm not talking about her physical size. I'm just saying she's a big Democrat supporter. She's a Dem through and through, with a hotline to the CDC where she can write their policy about whether or not the schools reopen. Guess what? She chose not to reopen them. That was her recommendation. So they're letting, big old Randi Weingarten write the health policy for the United States of America. Over the weekend, she was complaining, or as the Brits say, whinging, about what's going on here in the United States with two people in particular. She named her enemies. She's had it with them. She's so sick and tired of these people who think that parents should choose where their kids go to school. And so this is what she had to say about that.
So if you listen to one thing that I say today, remember this name, Christopher Rufo. Rufo and DeAngelis. By the way, Corey DeAngelis tweets or posts at me like last year, I think what was it, Asher? 5,000 times last year? Because it's all signaling. It's like, and this is before Elon Musk bought Twitter. It's the divide. And if you hear it all the time, and this is what Trump did, you think, well, there must be something to it because they say it all the time. Divide. They have not one thing that they offer as a solution other than privatizing or voucherizing schools, which is about undermining democracy and undermining civil discourse and undermining pluralism, because 90% of our kids go to public schools still. They just divide. So what did Rufo say? Rufo, DeAngelis, DeVos, they're all connected. What did they say? He say?
It's amazing. Once again, it's projection. Guess who wants to divide you? The left. Guess who wants you to multiply? The right. That's the truth. All right, joining us now, Corey DeAngelis, one of the enemies of Randi Weingarten by her own admission, senior fellow at the American Federation for Children and the executive director of Educational Freedom Institute, joins us now. Corey, good to have you with us, sir.
Hey, Vince, thanks for having me.
What do you think about Randi Weingarten say that you're at the top of her enemies list now?
I think we broke her. I mean, she said divide about 100 times, and it's pure projection. But look, we're living rent-free in her head because she fought to keep the schools closed and woke up parents, and now she's the best inadvertent advocate for school choice that anyone could have ever imagined. We have so much success right now in school choice because she overplayed her hand. And look, they have someone apparently named Asher Huey that she mentioned counting how many times I tweeted in the previous year. That guy gets paid over $200,000 a year to track my social media, I guess. I think we're over the target. And I think I'm going to put this quote from Randi on the back of my new book that comes out in May, The Parent Revolution.
I love that. I was just about to ask you, what is the likeliness, Corey, that you included this in all of your fundraising pitches going forward?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to send this to the development team. I'm going to put it on the back of the book. Yeah, I mean, it's hilarious. We're living rent-free in her head.
It's amazing.
And it's all her own fault. I mean, 5,000 times, that must be almost the amount of times that she lied this year. It's probably not even close, but maybe it's accurate because the only time I respond to her is when she's lying about something. So 5,000 times, yeah, maybe that's about right for the past year, because she always said that she opened the schools and fought to reopen them. It's complete opposite. They lobbied the CDC to make it more difficult to open schools. Yes. Randi was threatening state strikes about when it came to reopening schools. She was calling the president's plan to reopen schools reckless, callous, and cruel. They were fear-mongering, throwing everything at the wall to see what would stick. They were even tweeting their local affiliates in Chicago that it was racist and sexist and misogynist to reopen schools. I mean, it was never-ending hypocrisy and ridiculous fear-mongering, and it's really helping us, so it's great.
Yeah, but I mean, what do you make of her name-dropping you, though, explicitly, though? I mean, it doesn't Is it just a fit of emotional incontinence where she's just like mentioning all the people she hates in the middle of a speech? Or is this in some way a call to arms where she's telling the union people around her, these are our targets now?
I think we are targets. Rufo is exposing the rot that has infested the government schools in the name of CRT, this Marxism that's infiltrated the government school system. And I'm providing, and so is Rufo at this point as well, providing the obvious best solution, which is to allow families to choose the schools that align with their families' values so that they don't have to send their kids to institutions where they feel like they're being indoctrinated for 13 years of their lives to hate the country and to hate their own family's way of life. This has mobilized parents more than any standardized test failure in the public schools could ever have done over the past decades. Parents are mobilized now because they want to raise their kids in ways that align with their values. And school is the only way to really fix that. I mean, you can try to ban certain concepts, and we have tried that in some red states. But that's a form of whack-a-mole that'll never fix the inherent problem of the one-size-fits-all monopoly. You're always going to have you're always going to be chasing the battle within the system, and we should still do that fight. We should take over the school boards. Conservatives should try to do their best on that front, but we have to win the war at all fronts. And what Randy's most worried about is school choice because it hits them where it hurts. They can't just pretend they're going to call CRT social emotional learning. If you have school choice, the parents can smell the BS and take their money with them.
Yes. So it's funny that her phrasing is so weird. When she was talking about school choice advocates like yourself, she said that they, quote, have not one thing that they offer as a solution other than privatizing or voucherizing schools, which is so funny for her to say because, like, well, those are great options. So privatize schools or give people checks to take their kids somewhere else, give them their own money back, in other words, and let them go somewhere else with that money and send their kid to the school of their choice. Those seem like great options, actually. She made it seem like these are only small, meaningless options.
The doctor only prescribed one option for getting rid of your fever. They said to get antibiotics to fix the flu. Whatever it is. Of course, it's the best option. Why would I present other options that aren't any good? But that's not even true. We also support changing the system from within and taking over the school boards. This is just another option in the toolkit to empower parents.
Yes.
It also gives parents more leverage. They don't even have to switch schools because maybe the school boards, when they go to them and the parents actually have leverage and can take their money elsewhere, maybe the school boards won't call them domestic terrorists or cut off their mics. Maybe the school board will actually listen to them and they won't have to exercise exit. They can just exercise voice, and they'll have true meaning.
And she also said that you are, quote, undermining democracy with all of this. And this is kind of a bizarre thing to hear from her because what she's arguing is that the more government has control of your children, the better it is for, quote, democracy.
Well, and this is just another one of the things that the left does is anything I don't like undermines democracy, which is code for this is undermining my power. Randi Weingarten makes over $500,000 a year from teachers union dues and from trapping kids in her failing unionized government schools. And she wants to keep her gravy train going. So she's going to go with the hysterics and it's just like calling everything that you don't like racist. I mean, it's gone to that point. The new buzzword is you're undermining democracy if you don't do what I want you to do.
Yeah, she's an amazing person. Our producer Corey, where were you? What I'm trying to remember where. Oh, he's in Puerto Rico. So Corey was staying at some, Corey's just
the
like
other Corey.
Yeah, my Corey and Ganamort here on the Vince Coglianese show. He's so ridiculously independently wealthy that he was traveling all over the world and he stayed at this luxurious resort in Puerto Rico and he was there. And Randi Weingarten happened to be right there next to him in the buffet line. And Corey, because he can't help himself, my Corey and Ganamort, he can't help himself. He starts like telling her shame on you for what you did to America's children. And the two of them get into like this big argument at the buffet line at this luxurious Puerto Rican resort. It's the funniest thing ever. And so Corey's texting me about all this, and I was like, good for you. And honestly, Corey and Ganamort was informed by the excellent work of Corey DeAngelis. I'll be honest about that. Corey, you've done great work in bringing to some account to these people.
Well, I think I remember last time she was in Puerto Rico, she posted a picture onto Twitter, and she was in it was during all the school closures and forced masking of kids. She was on a panel and she didn't have her mask on, so everybody gave her a lot of pushback saying, well, where's your mask? You're masking all of our kids in the government schools. Why is it good enough?
Yeah.
Why can't you follow your own rules? And they called out the hypocrisy. It's always never-ending hypocrisy for these tyrants.
Is it your view? I know this, just a little bit outside the topic that we were talking about, but she's making $500,000 a year. Like this, anybody in the teachers union get frustrated that they're paying their measly salaries? They're paying like a big fee.
Yep.
To Randi Weingarten so she can make at least $500,000 a year. And that's just in her salary. That's not even the benefits that she gets.
Well, that will be the next awakening, Vince. We've woken up parents already. We're starting to wake up families when it comes to higher ed. Higher ed's having their Zoom moment right now where people they've gotten so bad that hopefully the university system will be reformed. But with the teachers unions, there's this lie that well, it's true that they don't support. They're not a kids union or a parents union. We know that. We knew that already. But they're not really good at representing good teachers either, because all they do is protect the worst performers, and they funnel all of the money towards hiring new staff, which means less money for teachers who are already doing a good job in the system. Since 1970 in the U.S., we've increased per student funding after adjusting for inflation by 160%.
Yes.
In real terms. But teacher salaries have only gone up by less than 10% in real terms. So they're not seeing the money. But it's not the fault of their competitors. It's the fault of their union leaders like Randi Weingarten.
And also, not allowing school choice stagnates the workplace, too. So if you're a really talented teacher working in a school trying to help kids cultivate education for them, you're going to be working amongst colleagues who are dullards, who are basically being – it's a jobs program for unimpressive people, and that's got to breed resentment among the people who are really talented and who are working hard to educate these kids.
Yeah, and post-Janus, the Supreme Court decision in 2018, a lot of teachers don't know they can actually opt to stop paying their union dues. You can no longer be compelled to pay union dues because it's an infringement on your First Amendment rights. So that's a huge win, and a lot of teachers know this. So that's look into the Janus decision at the Supreme Court level, but that's another way to hit the unions where it hurts, is to empower the teachers to choose otherwise. And with school choice, this would allow more teachers to set up micro schools by getting the funding directly from the student to the teacher, cut out the middleman, cut out the administrative bloat, and teachers could make a lot more money, have smaller class sizes, and have a lot more autonomy and not have to deal with all of the disruption during the day in the government school system. So that's a win-win solution. And Randi knows that too. I think that's why they're so terrified of school choice just passing like gangbusters. We've had 10 states go universal in 2 years. Hopefully more come. We haven't seen any momentum like this ever in the history of the school choice movement. And we can all thank our friend Randi for being so ridiculous and closing the schools and hurting kids academically and socially and emotionally. This school choice wave isn't going to stop anytime soon, and that's why they're name checking me at their conferences.
Okay, I just went and checked your Twitter bio. I don't think you've updated your bio yet. You need to include the quote from Randi Weingarten. I think it needs to be in there. Just an idea.
Yeah, it'll go on the book. It'll be in the bio. Add it to Facebook.
Yeah. Enemy and public enemy number one, or at least number two, right there behind Chris Rufo. One or the other. Right. Corey DeAngelis, thank you very much. Good to talk to you today, and please keep up the great work.
Thank you, Vince. Good talking to you.
Nice to chat. All right, let's go to line 4 where we find Mike in Sunshine. We could use some sunshine today. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for taking my call. I'm not sure how public sector unions can collectively bargain against taxpayers ultimately.
Right.
There's an old saying, private sector unions and owners, they divide what they make. But public sector unions and politicians, sometimes corrupt ones, they divide what they take.
I knew where that was going. That's a good line. I like that line.
They divide what they take. And, I'm not sure because of the structural problems with that, I can't believe it's not illegal.
Well, the teachers unions in particular, show me evidence that that's been better for educational outcomes, because I'm not seeing it. It's all headed in the wrong direction. One area I've thought about this a lot, and I'm basically with you instinctively. Although I will say that among the government sector unions that I kind of like, because at least they're trying to fight for the stuff that we care about, are the police unions trying to fight to, actually clean up the city streets, and the Border Patrol union is one that stands out to me. Is at least they're able to be honest in public about what's happening on our border. So those are examples of places where I'm like, okay, I like those guys. But I'm generally with you on this whole government union thing. It's really kind of wild to see that the taxpayers are in a position where you are, it is about what they take. It's a great line. That's a great line.
Yeah. I will support the interests of children as soon as they become payers. Union payers. Right. That was some union official back in the day.
Oh my gosh.
Basically said that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, boy, they're working against them, aren't they? And Mike. Thank you. It's such good points all the way through. Let's see here. I've got Nick in Purcellville calling in on line 3. Nick, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to see the next Congress split up that PBS and NPR money and give it to some groups that can give us some conservative or at least normal educational programming that's truthful.
Right.
And, we tried it. Romney suggested that was the only thing I liked about Romney, killing Big Bird. But I don't think you want to kill them all at one time. You want to do it the way they do, like 1,000 slices.
It's so funny too because they lie so much about how much government funding goes to these. They're like, oh, it's like a very small part, and they're like, okay, fine, let's take it away. You can't do that. It's essential. Well, then wait, I thought you said it was a small part. And then when you look at it, actually, when it comes to NPR in particular, what they're not telling you is that it's all of their member stations across the country taking in tons of government money that uphold the entire operation. That's how it works. And then they lie about it. They're like, well, the NPR at the national level only takes a very tiny amount of government money. They're entirely dependent on government funding. That's the truth. And it's just left-wing propaganda. So I'm for the free market, man. I'm for just taking that government money out of that.
Yeah, but I would like to see Vince Coglianese with the evening news.
With the evening news?
On our new broadcasting on PBS.
Oh, there you go. All right.
On the Hillsdale College Broadcasting Network.
We'll see. Well, like Hillsdale, my plan is to take no government money, just like that.
All right, Vince.
Nick, thank you very much. Yeah, Hillsdale. That's actually one of the many things that makes them great. They're like, no, none of that. We're not doing that. We don't need the government telling us what we can and can't say or how to operate our campus. All that government money comes with strings attached, a lot of them, and it never is for you. It never improves your life. But it definitely improves their power. Hey, coming up, we're going to get into, speaking of these Democrats, did you know that they keep getting busted for voter fraud? How prominent are those headlines? We'll tell you about a local elected official who just got busted for voter fraud. She claims she didn't know it was illegal. Of course she didn't. That's ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hey, good afternoon. It is 5:36 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. A lot to get to today. There are some headlines. The media is going wild right now because there's an actor called Jonathan Majors who was just found guilty today of 2 of the 4 counts he faced involving domestic violence charges. A 6-person jury in Manhattan announcing the verdict today. He is a Marvel movie star, and I used to like the superhero movies that the Marvel people were producing. The Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, all those movies, and it was good. But you know what's happened over time? One, it's become obviously a cash machine for Disney, which owns Marvel nowadays, and 2, they decided after the Avengers movies, especially, they made the whole thing into woke nonsense. It's just awful. It's just awful. And so Jonathan Majors is a major character in the latest iteration of their movies. And the whole time has been a disaster from the moment that he was arrested and charged. It's been a disaster for Disney. So this is another massive setback. And they just announced that Marvel is, quote, parting ways with Jonathan Majors after his guilty verdict. New York Times announcing today. So basically the face of their franchise going into the future has now been excised. And so massive disaster for Disney. But, the movies have just gotten more and more lousy. Somebody was talking about, the need to boycott Disney recently. I'm like, that's not hard. Boycott Disney? What do they have that I want to watch? That's the easiest boycott ever. It's like boycotting broccoli. I'm fine. That's the easiest. I can do that. I can do that in a heartbeat. Sorry for you broccoli lovers out there. I just look at this and it's nuts. And just bring back great action movies again. And yes, it is okay to have male stars lead great action movies. In fact, that's what audiences want to see. They just want to see beat up bad guys. Why do you think the John Wick movies, which barely have a storyline, are as successful as they are? It's just give Keanu Reeves a full arsenal of guns, have him kill every bad guy who's ever lived, like 600 deaths in a movie. It's unbelievable. People love them. It's just a great shoot 'em up action movie. That's it. That's all I want. You know, I don't need to think too deeply. It's just a little escape. Watch that. But instead, what we get is all these like girl power movies now. Like these and the girls. This is not my idea. This is borrowed wisdom, and boy, I'm grateful for all the smart people that I get to read and consume. But and I can't give credit here rightfully because I forget who said this, but basically a lot of these girl superhero movies, like where there's a female lead, she is always powerful from the beginning of the movie. She's powerful the whole time. Like she can destroy everyone. She can just kill planets with her eyes. The real challenge she faces throughout the movie is that men don't take her seriously enough. And it's like, ugh, barf. Come on. You know? Whatever happened to like the weak kid who like fights his way through school and finally comes into the full power as he faces the final boss, and then like that big moment of relief, like, oh my gosh, he's actually gonna win. I thought he was gonna lose. Yeah, that's a perfect arc for these movies, and they can't even do it with these girls. It's like crazy. It's crazy. They suck. Make Hollywood great again, please. Please, I beg of you. All right, let's get back to some of these crazy stories that are going on in the world. We've got Joe Biden. He didn't narrowly avoid catastrophe. He widely avoided catastrophe this weekend. But, you know, it is always a big deal when you hear that a car smashed into the presidential motorcade. A car reportedly smashed into a parked SUV that was part of President Joe Biden's motorcade outside of his Delaware campaign headquarters last night, according to 6 ABC, a local affiliate. Video footage of the incident circulating on Twitter as reporters had been waiting for Biden and First Lady Jill to leave the campaign office right before the incident occurred. A silver sedan smashed into a black SUV belonging to the United States Secret Service. Here's what the sound. Here's the sound of all of this. A reporter was screaming to Joe Biden at this moment about why he's losing to Trump in the polls. Why is your campaign crashing? A reporter asks as a car crashes into his motorcade.
Mr. President, why are you losing to Trump in the polls?
They're in the wrong polls.
They're the wrong polls, he says in a lousy joke. That's the car. Secret Service moving into position now. Create some barriers, additional barriers. And so what's wild about this video, there's a lot that's wild about it, but for one, Biden just kind of like looks off into the distance. His head moves just to see what the sound was. Like, you know, anybody would. And he's like, what, was that a car accident? The Secret Service kind of simultaneously, they look up to see what's going on. And they seemed a little slow on the draw. If you were protecting the President of the United States and you heard a gigantic boom, I don't know, maybe quicker, but whatever. I've never been in the Secret Service. But from a distance, I'm watching this going, move, boys, move. You got the President of the United States. And something just happened. Something very unexpected just happened, a big crash. So when they finally start moving, they can't shove him into the car. You remember after Hinckley attacked Reagan, they like shove him so fast into the vehicle. Even he was shot already. They fire him into this car. They get him out. They take off. With Biden, this car accident takes place. They like gingerly grab his elbows and they're like, all right, right this way, old man. It feels like 4 minutes for them to walk 5 feet to the car. I'm like, oh gosh, this guy's too old to even whisk him away in the midst of a security crisis. But they do finally get him in the car. We found out today that the guy who smashed into the motorcade was apparently under the influence of something. So he got a DUI for that. Just imagine, you know, being a little overserved, driving home. You run into the motorcade of the President of the United States. Oh, my gosh. And just guns drawn. Everybody's like, they're like, oh, my God. What? I made a series of terrible decisions this evening that resulted in this moment. That's God sending you a message to that gentleman. That's like, all right, maybe time to turn your life around, you know? That's a big message. So I hope something good comes out of all of this for him because guns in your face and a Dewey for having hit the presidential motorcade. Not a great weekend, just ahead of Christmas. So, yeah, but Biden too old to rush into a vehicle. Too old to rush. We've got a story out of D.C. that you need to know about, too. There's a local official here in Washington, D.C., an elected official in Washington, D.C., who has just been fined for voter fraud. What? Yes, indeed. And if you're an elected official in D.C., that means you're a Democrat, just to be clear. Elected official fined for voting in both D.C. and Maryland in 2020. Okay, let me just start with the obvious. If you're a Democrat, why are you committing voter fraud in Maryland and D.C.? Trust me, there's no risk of this thing going the other way. You're fine. It's gonna be fine. You don't even need to cheat to vote there. Elected official fined for voting in both D.C. and Maryland in 2020. Vanessa Rubio, an advisory neighborhood commissioner in Ward 4, voted in both D.C. and Maryland in the 2020 general election, according to the Elections Board. Documents from the board state Rubio voted in person in Maryland on November 1st of 2020 and then in D.C. on November 3rd of 2020. Rubio admitted she voted twice to the board, but she said she didn't think it was illegal because D.C. is not a state, according to the documents. Oh, I didn't know. She thought that voting in D.C. was like voting in like a student council election. Like, this isn't real. It's an election. It's real. You know, D.C.'s got electoral college votes and everything, unfortunately. But it's real. It's real. You voted in both places. You're not allowed to do that. It's illegal. You ready for the consequences? The Elections Board fined her $500. That's it. She didn't lose her job. She's still an elected official. She got a $500 fine for committing voter fraud. So isn't this an amazing little system the left has devised? There's no voter fraud, and then when it takes place, you get slapped on the wrist. $500? No, I don't want to lose $500, but $500. Are you serious? She voted in 2 different places. Rubio declined to comment to News 4. Says NBC here. This is the NBC4 report, if I didn't mention that before. 5 other voters who the board said double voted were ordered to pay a lesser fine of $100 each. 5 other voters. They $100 fines? There are Democrats who would pay $100 as a subscription fee to vote in a second state. Yeah. Okay, $100? Yeah, I'll do that. $100. They also voted in D.C. and Maryland, officials said. The board said it ordered Rubio to pay a heftier fine due to her position as an elected official. Oh, yeah, you're really showing her $500. Way to stick it to her. None of the 6 cases are related to one another, officials said. Of course not. There's no chance of any criminal enterprise involved in double voting. And they're the first cases of voter fraud that the Elections Board has even taken action on since sharing data with the Nationwide Election Registration Information Center, or ERIC. Eric. News 4 has reached out to the Maryland Board of Elections to find out if it's taking any actions. Let's see if Maryland is tougher on any of these people. Double voting, NBC notes, is not grounds to be removed from elected office in D.C. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. D.C. lived through the Marion Barry era. There's the bar for being removed from office is very, very, is it low or high? Anyway, the point is you've got to do a lot. Just voting in 2 locations at the same time is not enough. And it does not impact the person's right to vote in future elections. So she's good. A $500 fine, she's Gucci golden, as we say. And, everyone else, $100 fines. Will it stop them in the future? That's the big $100 question. Will it stop them in the future from voting again in 2 different elections? How many of these Democrats are doing this? I always wonder about the college students, too. The college students who will stay, they'll go to a campus in a state that's not their home state. And do they vote locally and back at home? And do they do it, obviously, for Democrats? Seems like a high probability. There's quite a bit of that going on. I mean, these campus radicals are like openly marching for Hamas. Like a little bit of double voting is a low intensity form of nonsense for these guys. So right here in Washington, D.C., we have elected officials who are voting in 2 different locations and are too stupid to realize you're not allowed to do that. I didn't know it was illegal. I thought, well, D.C.'s not a state, so how could it be illegal? Oh. All the more reason D.C. shouldn't become a state. If our elected officials have no idea that you can't vote in two different locales in the United States, you probably shouldn't be a state. You probably shouldn't have that privilege to become a state. What have you done to deserve that? What does the crime rate look like? It's going in the wrong direction. I was just getting together with a lot of parents this weekend, friends, people who work in and around Washington, D.C. Everyone is against it. Everyone, like, they're all, and everybody loves Washington, D.C. They love what it used to be like, hate what it's like now. It's crazy. A lot of people second guessing whether they want to drive into the city because of the rise in all these carjackings. And then the option becomes, we were talking to Corey about this last week, Corey and Ganamore. The option becomes, okay, well, if you're not going to take your car because you're afraid it's going to be carjacked, maybe you take the Metro. But the Metro is running way more infrequently than it used to now. And based on their budget shortfall, which is in the hundreds of millions of dollars, they're saying they may have to cut more. We have to cut more stations, cut more service times, fewer buses. So this is really, thanks, left. Thanks, the left, broadly. I can't drive my car in. I can't take the public transportation you were promising me. It's beginning to feel like you just want me to stay home. Like you don't want me to go anywhere. Yeah, maybe that's by design. So we've got a lot going on. The mayor of New York City is a fella called Eric Adams, and he's really something else. He was doing an interview, apparently. I think this was this morning, but it was on Pix 11, the New York local outlet. And he said this. He was asked about if he could summarize 2023 in one word. Of course, being a Democrat, he didn't actually use one word. He used multiple words to answer the question. And just pretend you were the mayor of New York. Would your answers sound like anything like this?
Mr. Mayor, we've come to the end of what was a very eventful 2023, right? So when you look at the totality of the year, if you had to describe it, and it's tough to do, in one word, what would that word be, and tell me why?
New York.
New York is my one word. It's actually two words, but New York. All right, so why is New York your word of the year?
This is a place where every day you wake up, you could experience everything from a plane crashing into our trade center to a person who's celebrating a new business that's open. This is a very, very complicated city, and that's why it's the greatest city on the globe.
What? What is this answer? If I could describe 2023 in what, it's New York, a plane could randomly run into a building in a terror attack and kill 3,000 people, or you could start a business. What? It's New York. You could be walking down the street and everything could smell like human waste and weed, or you could get a great slice of pizza. That's what makes this the greatest city on earth. And you're like, what? Did you think about your answer at all, or you just start speaking? It is amazing. So Democrats keep wondering, what's happening to these cities? Who's in charge around here? Eric Adams, who says that falling prey to a terrorist attack and then maybe starting a small business makes New York the greatest city in the world. I'll tell you what, I've got a gift for you. The great one, Mark Levin, up next right here on WMAL.